So the other thing, my experience with myself and with other law firm owners and leaders, you got to have something that drives you. You went out on your own, you're trying to grow this thing, you're growing this thing. What is it for you? What drives you?
It's passion, to be honest with you. And I was a little worried when I had my little boy that I would lose some of that he would be a distraction. And I mean, I wasn't worried, actually. I was going to be welcoming of if my little boy distracted me from work, because money's good. Money could be good with half as much effort, to be candid with you. But I love what I do. I love waking up every day going to work. I like the people I work with. I love my clients. If I don't like my clients, I fire them or send them to somebody else, And so our firm mission is to help as many good people as possible. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if I'm obsessed. Sometimes I wonder if that'll last forever. And I have to be cognizant of that because I put it in front of my wife. I don't put it in front of my little boy yet, but I will one day. And for no good reason other than because I love it. So I know it's corny, but I love what I do.
Welcome to the Founding Partner Podcast. Join your host, Jonathan Hawkins, as we explore the fascinating stories of successful law firm founders. We'll uncover their beginnings, triumph over challenges, and practice growth. Whether you aspire to launch your own firm, have an entrepreneurial spirit, or are just curious about the legal business, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Founding Partner Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Hawkins. This is a podcast where I interview founding attorneys and learn about their journeys and some of the lessons they've learned along the way. And today I'm excited to have Hunter Garnett on the show. He is a personal injury lawyer in Huntsville, Alabama. He's pretty active on LinkedIn, so if you're over there, maybe you recognize Hunter. Hunter, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your firm, where you are, how big it is, when you started it, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. So I grew up in Danville, Alabama, which is a little farm town in North Alabama. I'm the oldest of 7 kids, wanted to be a farmer my whole life, and it just wasn't in the cards. It wasn't the Lord's will for me. I went to college, studied ag business, did not know what I wanted to do. Was dating my now wife. I knew I wanted to marry her. I knew I wanted to be close to her. And there was a good law school in Birmingham where she was in college, and prayed about it a lot, took the LSAT, got a good scholarship, and thought this is a door that I should walk through. I was the first lawyer in my family. Did not know any lawyers when I went to law school. Had a bit of a chip on my shoulder because my dad's a lawnmower mechanic, very middle-class family growing up, even lower middle class at times. And I did not know what I wanted to do. I had good grades, had good experience in law school, fell in love with the courtroom, decided I wanted to be a trial lawyer, and then now I came to Huntsville to work with a plaintiff side trial firm, and from there fell in love with the personal injury part of trial work. Started my own firm about 4 years ago. We are here in Huntsville. It's me, 2 other lawyers, a couple paralegals, handful of in-person legal assistants, and then a pretty extensive offshore, nearshore team that supports mostly our pre-lit department. We're a general personal injury practice. My practice is more geared towards high-value cases. We try to systematize pre-lit as much as we can, and then the smaller litigation cases, the other attorneys in the firm work on those.
So how far is Danville from Huntsville?
It's about an hour, 55 minutes. Yeah, okay. It's not bad.
So I grew up in Mobile on the other side of Alabama from you.
But I didn't know that.
I did. And, I hadn't been to Huntsville forever, but when I was in 5th grade, we went up there to a space camp thing.
Yeah.
It's out a long, long time ago. I don't know if it's true, but somebody told me that Huntsville is now the biggest city in the state of Alabama. Is that right?
City limits. Yeah, metro area.
Okay.
We're a lot smaller than Birmingham. But yeah, city limits were big.
Okay. With all the NASA and defense contracting and all that, I hear it's just blown up. Really cool place. It's on these lists. People say, great place to live or retire to, whatever. What's it like there now?
It's a good place to live. For me, it's the closest decent sized city to home. So it was a logical landing place. My wife grew up spending a lot of time here. Her family's from Hartselle. So I've known her. I met her at my 14th birthday party, actually. Today's her birthday.
Wow.
So happy birthday, Hannah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Tell her I said happy birthday.
Well, she got a good birthday present. We've got a little boy that's 3.5 months old, and he is her whole world. But yeah, Huntsville's a good place. Lots of traffic's picking up. Lots of people moving here. It's a good place for a personal injury firm because there's growth just in general, and it's mostly middle class, upper middle class people commuting to work. So a lot of car accident cases, as you can imagine.
Yeah, 3.5 years old.
3.5 months.
That's 3.5 months. So you're not getting much sleep, I imagine.
I'm getting more than my wife is. That's for sure.
Yeah, I remember those days. Yeah, gets easier. That's cool, man. Congrats on that as well. So yeah, you remind me, you said you wanted to be a farmer. You remind me sort of, I'm sure you get this a lot, little Atticus Finch references.
I don't get that a whole lot. I love farming, but now I have given myself the title of cowboy, a weekend cowboy. And so kind of shifting that way a little more than farming. I grew up like growing corn, soybeans. My grandpa was a chicken farmer, had some cows, but I like the cows and the horses.
So do you own land? Are you in the city? How are you set up?
I got really lucky. During COVID, I bought 10 acres right outside of Huntsville. I mean, I'm an island in the county, back up to the land trust. So I've got good trails and stuff to ride and enough room for a few horses. And last year, I bought a farm kind of about halfway between my hometown and the office, bought 64 acres. And we've got plans to build there long term. It borders a wildlife refuge, so it's real private, but it's right by the interstate too. And then we closed Tuesday actually on a house in Priceville that'll be kind of a bridge house, have for 10 years probably until we can build something. And then I've been buying some family land, I don't need it, don't really want it, just don't want anybody else to have it, with the goal being as my kids get up to teenage years, I would like to slow down a little bit and start having some cows. I think it's a great way to raise your family around that type of lifestyle. I attribute the majority of my success to those foundational years, what I learned working on a farm.
So this property you have, you got some animals and stuff. Are you quote able to farm or whatever now, or is that something you want to do in the future?
Yes, I'm farming now. If you work for the IRS, my answer is emphatically, I'm a farmer. Okay, I'm laying the groundwork for some much bigger farm plans. Right now, I rent a large portion of it. I would actually really like to have a horseback riding facility there, like some tiny houses, do a weekend destination type place. That's kind of a 20-year goal of mine. Like if I really slow down practicing law, you can find me riding horses along the Wheeler Wildlife Refuge in Priceville.
That's cool. Yeah, that's sort of where I was headed with this is, the balance between that and then the demands of practicing law. I guess now you're mainly focused on building your practice and maybe, raising a son and all that kind of stuff. That's cool. So takes back. So I think I was doing some research for today. So you grew up, you're the oldest of 7 kids. And I'm curious how that was for you. I know a number of folks who had, 6, 5 siblings, that kind of thing. And the older ones tend to be sort of, almost like parents to some of the younger. I'm just curious what your relationship is with how your relationship was with your other siblings.
I'm not their parent for sure. So I have 2 biological siblings and we're relatively close, two sisters. I'm real close with my nieces and nephews. They both have kids, both my sisters. And then I have 4 sisters that were adopted through foster care. And we're super tight, but I'm like, we weren't raised in the same house. Like when we adopted I was 15 whenever my oldest 2 adopted sisters came to live with us. And so I was out of the house pretty quickly. I actually moved out when I was 16, 17, in with my grandparents because our house was full and their house was empty. And I was working at my grandpa's farm all the time. And the youngest 2, we've never lived in the same house. And so we have a great relationship because if I get tired of them, I just go to my house. If they get tired of me, they go to their bedroom and close the door. So we have all the good stuff of a sibling relationship with none of the bad stuff. They've been texting me today. They love the fall. All their birthdays are in the fall. And we do a trip to Six Flags and we do a trip to a haunted house every fall. And they're blowing me up like, hey, fall breaks a week from tomorrow. Like, where are we going,
So you went to Mississippi State undergrad, grew up in Alabama. Who's your team?
So
Who's
I grew
football
up a
team?
big Alabama fan. There's actually a super embarrassing video of my dad, like being an obnoxious. It went viral. Clay Travis shared it, like probably
Oh wow.
12, 13 years ago. It was that play where the game before the kick six, it wasn't even an Alabama game. It was Georgia and Auburn, where Auburn won on a Hail Mary the year that they went to the national championship game. I guess it was 13.
I remember that year. They had a series of just freak,
Yeah, just like
just
God is
plays that
definitely-
got it. Yeah,
God is an Auburn fan for sure.
yeah, that year for sure.
So that's what led to me going to Mississippi State over Auburn. I knew I wanted to study agriculture. And as the crow flies, Starkville was a little closer. Maroon's a little closer to Crimson. It's only about an hour from Tuscaloosa, Starkville, so I was able to pop over and see my friends. And now, to be candid with you, I could not care less about football at this point.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny how I love. I mean, in the South, love college football, but you can only get caught up in a bunch of young kids playing a sport. It's just like, why do I want to be super happy or super sad or mad because of some game that doesn't affect me at all? So
it makes no sense. And I joke around. The good thing about being a Mississippi State fan is I can do whatever I want on Saturday. I don't have to schedule my whole day. I don't even know they play most of the time.
I'm a Georgia Tech fan. It's been the same way. It's just we lose a couple early, and you're like, I don't care.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier you're the only lawyer in your family. So tell me, how did you end up in law school?
Well, my mom said I had to go to college, so went to college. Was planning on doing something in ag, and the head of my department actually pulled me aside, and his wife was a judge in Tippahall County, Mississippi, and he told me I should go to law school. I'd not really considered it. I decided to take the LSAT, and I did well. So then I decided to study really hard for the LSAT. And honestly, I was only going to go if I got a 100% scholarship. Because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I viewed it more as a tool in the belt. I might go do policy work in Montgomery, the state capital, or work for Farm Bureau, something like that. So that's kind of what led to me going to law school. To be honest with you, is I wasn't ready to grow up, had a good scholarship, had a wife on a campus with a good law school, and just walked through that door.
So tell me so you do personal injury now. What was your first job out of law school? And I ask the question a lot with personal injury lawyers and some background. I wanted to be a personal injury lawyer. I went to law school knowing I wanted to be a personal injury lawyer. I tried to get a job out of law school and on the plaintiff side, and I couldn't get one. I couldn't find one. And so I never ended up doing it. What was your journey like?
The opposite. So I spent both summers with Wallace Jordan Ratliff Brandt, great firm, all born-again Christian attorneys. They had an ag and food division. I thought it was just perfect. It was kind of big law without the negatives of big law. So that was my plan, was to go work for them. And they didn't offer me a job after my second summer. No hard feelings. Then I started to have some trouble finding any job. I thought, okay, I'll be a district attorney, an assistant district attorney in Jefferson County. They're deputized. I get a gun. That sounds great. Then their district attorney loses an election. The incoming district attorney gets indicted. They have a hiring freeze while they're trying to sort that out. So there goes my next job opportunity. So I'm kind of scrambling. This is my third year law school. Everybody at the top of the class on trial team has jobs except for me. And a job gets posted in Huntsville, the personal injury law firm. And personal injury was the last thing on my radar. I did not plan on doing it. And I did not apply for that job. And the career development office called me and was like, hey, they're looking for somebody like you, apply for this job. So I did. And I went into the room and told them all the reasons I didn't want to be a plaintiff's lawyer in Huntsville. And they, I guess, appreciated my candor. And maybe there's a little psychology there of turning somebody down almost in an interview, but they liked me and we kept following up. And my wife has always been my caution light. Okay, red, yellow, green. And she, after my third interview, she gave me a green light. Said, you need to take this job. I feel like this is where we're supposed to be, what you're supposed to be doing. And so I took it. My only caveat, I just wanted to try cases. And they said, you will be trying cases within a month of you getting your bar results. Well, turns out, got the bar results on Friday. We tried a case on Monday, in my home county.
Nice.
My aunt was actually on our jury panel. And we tried.
How did that go, by the way?
Well, it's like you walk into the courtroom and the judge, very first question, does anybody know any of the lawyers? Or actually, it's more specific than that. Has anybody ever been represented by any of the lawyers in the room? or related to them by blood or marriage. And my aunt shoots her hand up, first row. Like, that's my nephew right there. I've known him since he was.
He's the greatest person, the most honest.
No,
You got to believe everything he says.
No, she's pretty shy, and I was too. Man, I was just 25, barely turned 25, and so home county tried the case. It tried really well. Got to give the first part of the closing argument. And you got to ask for money in Alabama in your first closing. Never asked for money in mock trial in law school, so that was a bit foreign. And I asked for $251,000 and some change. I think it was like $251,378 or something like that. So tried the case. Jury goes out. We only had 200 in coverage. Jury goes out. They're gone for about 3 hours. They come back and they round it up to 252,000. And so then I was hooked. Nice. About the same time, I started to realize that I really liked the clientele. Most of them are blue collar, working class people. They're the type of people that I grew up with. They're the type of people that I'm related to. They're the type of people that my dad is, my uncles are, my grandfather is. And so I found that I could speak their language. I liked them. They liked me. And I realized that this kind of chip on my shoulder of, I don't know any lawyers. I'm kind of little country, not all that sophisticated. Maybe that's not a disadvantage. Maybe I can spin this into an advantage. And so I started to market myself a little differently, very authentically, and started to acquire cases. And that's kind of what led to like the next kind of pivot for me.
So I got a question. I know church and faith are very important to you. So have you ever done any preaching in the church realm? And then I imagine that's got to help you in a courtroom.
Yeah, I did. Whenever I was very, very active, very serious about my faith when I was 16, 17, 18 years old. And we had a really good band, youth band for my friends. And we would travel a little bit where we would do like a whole service at other churches. Sometimes at our church, like once a quarter, we'd do like a youth service. And I would preach. I didn't like it, but I did. I tell you what, I've always felt called to the ministry, but really to the mission field. I thought that the Lord would call me to a specific place at some point in my life. And I'm still ready to go. And I never felt that calling to like, hey, go here. It was just, I knew I was called to further the kingdom of heaven and make that something that I do on a daily basis. And I'll tell you, when I closed the door formally, is it was my first Hispanic client, my first workers' comp case, super, super sweet lady. And she had a really bad injury, hard case. We got a good outcome, but workers' comp does not make you whole in Alabama. And as I'm splitting up the money with her, sliding the check across the table, she told me, I said, I'm sorry that it's not more. I'm sorry this happened to you, blah, blah, blah. And she said, I'm glad that this happened. I'm glad I got hurt. And I was kind of taken aback. And she explained to me that all her friends had kind of left her since she got hurt. She's not a pleasant person to be around. She's on pain medicine. She can barely get out of the house. And there was one lady that stuck with her. And it was an older white lady. And my client asked the old lady, like, why are you coming to my house every day, spending time with me? And the lady began to witness to her. And my client had grown up a cultural Catholic, and she gave her life to the Lord and took her faith very seriously from that moment forward. And she told me that she didn't think that, but for the injury, that she would have been vulnerable enough to realize that she was lost and that she needed saving. And so I incorporate that in my practice sometimes with, like, John 9 is a story that I incorporate in my practice a lot. And the message of the story is, like, the Lord uses trials and tribulations to further his will. And we don't understand them a lot of times in this moment, and we may never understand them in this life, but they serve his purpose. And so I try to use my faith to encourage my clients and reassure them. And I've realized, like, I am in the mission field. Like, this desk, this office, my city is my mission field. I'm in it every day.
Yeah, that's good. So you ended up where you're supposed to be, sounds like.
Yeah, I have no doubt that I'm exactly where the Lord wants me right now. And if he wants me somewhere else, I'll go. But for now, I'm supposed to have a good personal injury practice in Huntsville.
So let's go back to you went to the personal injury firm out of law school, but obviously eventually you left to start your own firm. So tell me about that. What kicked you? What was the spark that said, all right, I'm going to go do this by myself? So
I was all in. My grandfather, my dad, they both worked a long time at one company. My grandpa only had one job, 37 years at a plant indicator, company man. And I kind of thought that way too. Like, hey, they invested in me, they bet on me, I'm going to be a loyal person. But during COVID, I started to see some things that could change in our firm to make us more profitable, allow us to help more people, give clients a better customer experience. And my partners were both in their 50s, mid to late 50s, making good money. And guess what? You know, and I don't blame them, but a 27, 28, 29-year-old coming in telling you, hey, here's a better way to run your practice, even though you've been making crazy money for 30 years, they weren't super receptive to it. And so that started to plant the kind of seed of like, you know, maybe I could do this and run this like a business and be more successful. I had a lot of cases coming in. I had my own caseload, and I had a really big case that we settled for several $1,000,000 that I had originated. And I basically took that bonus, and that was my capital to start my law firm. It's been right at 4 years ago.
So tell me about leaving, about the conversation. Was it easy? Was it hard? I mean,
it wasn't that hard. We left on good terms. So we left in total agreement over which cases were going where. Everything was cool. Pretty clean breakup getting out the door. To be candid, there was a lot more friction after we're out the door than during the breakup process. You know, I think it's kind of analogous to a romantic breakup where even when it's mutual, there's still a little bit of hurt feelings, and there's just always, it's never super clean. Like there's always something that's like, you're a little jaded about it. And to be candid with you, it's probably my main topic of prayer is like to not think about it as much, not think about the really big, I did get a bonus out of that really big case, but it was not life-changing money like, you know, it would have been if it had been my case, or even if I had referred it to another law firm, you know?
Yeah, that's tough. So when you started your firm, did any clients come with you, or did you start from scratch?
No, I had 55 clients that were my clients, brought them all with me. I actually just looked, it was about $625,000 in legal fees, that caseload in net to my firm after referral fees, paying the old firm, that kind of stuff. And so had those with me, and then cases started coming in pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, it sounds like at your prior firm, you were already originating cases, so it probably wasn't that difficult to just keep doing what you're doing. I don't know. What do you do to get cases?
So, and this was another reason I left the firm, is I got my first good Google case at my old firm, and I was in charge of the digital marketing stuff. And so I realized, I knew it was an SEO case. It was from the Map Pack, basically, organic Google business profile lead. And I knew that that's an asset that I wasn't going to be able to take with me, and I was growing it for them. And all those reviews I was getting, they don't transfer over. So that's part of the reason I left. And so it took me a little bit of time to get those back going over here, because it's not a switch you cut on and off. I had the keyword injury lawyers in my firm name, and this was years ago before everybody had it. And so I got leads pretty quickly through that. A lot of my cases come from chiropractic referrals, not just their patients, but sometimes like I got a case yesterday that's a catastrophic injury, but she works at a chiropractic clinic. Attorney referrals were my bread and butter before I started my firm, but then I started to get real intentional with community involvement, garnering, nurturing referral relationships. And so most of our cases now are still referrals.
So what's it like up there in Huntsville? I mean, I know, so, you know, I'm here in Atlanta. Whenever I drive to my parents down in Mobile, everybody knows it's driven through Alabama. They know the billboards they're going to see.
Yeah.
Shannara everywhere. So other than maybe that, what sort of advertisers are you competing with? Or competing with maybe the wrong word, but, you know, who are the 800-pound gorillas that are out there dominating the advertising in the Huntsville area?
Well, for sure, Shannara's got, I would assume, the biggest market share by far. Whittemore Keith's another big firm with a big presence up here. Morgan & Morgan has come in recently. I don't know what their market share looks like. They've been in Birmingham for quite a while. They're in Huntsville this year, basically. Morris Bart is up here for the second time. And then we've got some local advertisers, a Lackey firm, Tyler Mann Injury Law, Morris King & Hodge. And then you get into your more traditional law firms that spend a little money on advertising, like Senyard. Let's think. I think that Koch & Cloud, Koch & Cole, I think they spend some money. So there's I'll tell you this, Mobile's got a comparable market, I think, in terms of the number of car accident cases. Huntsville's got about 65 to 75% as many advertising lawyers as Mobile does, despite being in the same market. So there's opportunities up here, and we're growing faster than Mobile. But I don't really view us as having competition. We just have a very different we counter position ourselves against those firms.
Yeah, so tell me about that. A lot of, PI is just a competitive space. And as you know, and so you've got these big spenders and, sort of like when they zig, you got to zag. So, what are you doing? Obviously you did some SEO early, you had your name, but other than digital, what sorts of things do you focus on that work for you?
So I think if you break it down to strategy versus tactics, my strategy is real simple. We just are very authentic. We're very authentic, and we have a really good understanding of who our ideal clients are. We don't try to go into, we don't try to compete in obtaining clients that don't fit what our ideal clients are. Now you get walk-ins, you get referrals from all types of people, but like my client avatar is a blue collar worker growing up in a probably rural community, a suburb of Huntsville. They're middle class, maybe upper middle class, maybe lower middle class. They're typically married. They're typically Christian. They're typically politically conservative. And my brand resonates with them. I'm in blue jeans and a blazer right now. It's about as dressed up as I get unless I'm going to court. I wear boots to work every day. When people come into my office, I want them to feel at ease. So I don't put my suit on. I don't wear a three-piece suit. They're already intimidated. They've never met with a lawyer. This is the last thing they want to do is be in my office meeting with me. And so whatever I can do to make them more comfortable, I try to do. So that's the strategy. The tactics change all the time, right? The tactics are always evolving. Right now, TikTok is good for us. We get a lot of attention on TikTok. Facebook's always been good, mostly through my personal page. That just gets a ton of reach. Those are really LinkedIn sometimes, but that's a different kind of strategy, right?
Yeah. So the other, one of the cool things about starting your own firm is you get clean slate. You get to, like you said, there's some things you wanted to do at your last firm and you weren't really able to do it. And so you get to do whatever you want. So, one of the things I read some of your stuff and, like the core values of your firm are important to you, should be. I'm curious sort of what are the core, I don't know if you can name them, but what are the core values of your firm?
Yeah.
Your culture.
So ours is generosity's first, and that comes from the top down, I think. But I want my team to be generous as well. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about with our time. I don't want anybody to be in a rush to get off the phone with a client. And so that's our main core value. The other thing, and my team gets on to me. They feel like I'm trying to turn our firm into a cult sometimes. Constant improvement is like my MO. So I'm sending them podcast episodes all the time. They've got access to my Audible library. I pay for a gym membership for everybody. And I don't body shame for sure, but I'm like, are you better today than you were yesterday? Or this week versus last week. To professionally, physical fitness and nutrition, your personal life, your spiritual life. And so that's an important core value for us. And then, empathy. I think that one's a little kind of corny, but we really try to have real empathy for our clients. And we try to give exceptional customer service. I'll tell you this, I don't view us, when we talk about competition, I think our competition is like Chick-fil-A. All right, when it comes to customer service, we're not getting compared to my competitor across the street. We're getting compared to the customer experience that people have on an everyday basis. And so we want to be not really even the Chick-fil-A of law firms, but we want to be like the Chick-fil-A of businesses, right? So yeah, that's our core values.
So I like that you provide a gym membership for all your employees. So I exercise every day. I need to look at my thing. I'm over 1,000 days in a row. So
wow.
It's really important to me. I have not sort of made that offer to everybody because, Atlanta's a little different too. They're spread all over. So tell me but I do want to dig into the gym members. Is it a specific gym or is it like they get to pick and you'll pay for it? How does that work?
No, we have a gym right around the corner from us, a YMCA. And so we're all members there and they go together. There's a couple folks that go by themselves, but for the most part, they're going in groups of 2 or 3 going together almost every day.
That's cool. That's really, I'm with you. That's really important. I just think health, wellness, and the law can be very stressful for everybody, top to bottom, not just the lawyers. And then of course, we're taking somebody else's problem and putting it on our backs, and we sort of, whether it's right or wrong, we feel like we take responsibility for them. And I imagine your clients too. Some have been pretty badly injured, I'm sure. So the pressure's there. And exercise is a way you get to sort of shed some of that,
For sure.
So that's cool. Real quick, if you haven't gotten a copy yet, please check out my book, The Law Firm Life Cycle. It's written for law firm owners and those who plan to be owners. In the book, I discuss various issues that come up as a law firm progresses through the stages of its growth, from just before starting a firm to when it comes to an end. The Law Firm Life Cycle is available on Amazon. Now back to the show. So moving on. So another post that I saw you make on LinkedIn, you were talking about, I'll just call it, reaching out to some of the, quote, big shot lawyers around town. And I'm curious, when did you start that practice and what made you sort of do it?
I'm sure I did it either right out of law school or in law school. Started just with local Alabama kind of legends, people I'd heard of. Lawyers are pretty generous with their time when it comes to other lawyers and law students, prospective law students. So I started really young. Actually, the first lawyer I introduced myself to for that purpose was David Marsh, he's the guy in Huntsville, in Alabama. It's got all the biggest verdicts. And his son was a year ahead of me in law school, and his son graduated first in his class. And when I met David, I joked around. I was like, dude, if you were my dad, I would have been coasting. I would have been a C student. It's incredible to me that both your boys have a work ethic and you're the most successful lawyer probably in Alabama history. How'd you do it? And for him, I wanted to talk to him about how do you make a lot of money, have wealth, and raise your children in a way that they are not entitled. And then I don't remember, Mark Lanier's one that I've reached out to before, but he's a bit harder to get into. He's a little busier than the average bigwig, lawyer.
So did someone give you that advice, or did you just sort of do that on your own? I'm curious.
I don't remember, to be honest with you. There's so many, I think all the time, I just joined Great Legal Marketing. Looking forward to meeting you in person there in a few weeks. There's a decent chance, a lot of my mindset comes from listening to stuff for so long. And I know whenever I hear Ben say stuff now and I'm like, I'm doing that, it's probably because I heard him talk about it 5 years ago. Pretty good chance somebody 10 years ago said something on a podcast and it stuck with me.
Well, I think that's just, tremendous thing to do. And I tell younger lawyers to do that, but none of them will do it. I say none. Few of them will do it. I've been giving CLEs and talks to lawyers for years, and I would I've probably talked to hundreds and hundreds of lawyers, and I'll usually end with something like, anybody out there, if you follow up, I will take you, coffee or lunch or whatever, I'll pay for it. Just reach out. And I think, speaking to hundreds and hundreds of lawyers, maybe two have done it over the span of 15 years. Maybe they just don't want to talk to me. I don't know. But yeah, it's, I think a lot of younger lawyers just don't, maybe they're so busy. I don't know the reason, but they don't really get up from behind their desk and go do these sort of proactive things.
I think it's because they're busy. I think a lot of people don't. I think we overestimate how busy we are a lot of times. I know so many talented, super smart lawyers with a stack of paper on their desk this tall, plenty of business, plenty of work, and they don't ever look up past that stack of paper to see opportunities to better themselves, better their practice, to help more people, whatever it might be.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about your firm. So we talked, some about some of the things you're doing, but what other sorts of things are you doing to build your firm? You started with just you, and now you said you got a couple attorneys, you got, some other team members there. So what sorts of things have you done to build it? And has it been conscious building, or is it sort of organic or reactive?
It's been pretty conscious. We're always planning the next event, the next marketing project, whatever it might be. The best success we've had has been being really intentional with our referral partners. I like to think about your referral network as a bullseye, like a dartboard. Okay. And this is prospective clients or referral partners. You got people off the board that have never heard of you. And until you mass market, they're not going to hear of you, probably. And then you've got people kind of on the outer ring that maybe they've heard your name. They know something about you. You got a mutual friend with them, whatever it might be. And as you get closer to that bullseye, you've got your Superfans right in the middle. The people that they're not just former clients, but they are former clients, or they're not just friends, but they're close friends. They're people who will go out of their way to refer clients to you, not because they want to help you, but because they know somebody that's been hurt really badly that needs representation, and they know that you're the person to help them. And so a lot of my marketing is thinking about how to get closer, move people from the outside rings towards the center. And I have found community involvement, generosity, authenticity to be the fuel that drives people to the center. I want to have 1,000, I call them Superfans. Stole that from the guy that owns the Savannah Bananas. And I want 1,000 Superfans. And I like for my Superfans to be influential, teachers, principals, ministers, youth ministers, other attorneys, medical providers, that kind of stuff.
So as your firm's grown, how's your role changed? You start out, you do everything. And then as you add people, you got to let go. And so number one, how's it changed, and what has it been hard to let go?
Now I'm pretty good about letting go. I only really micro delegate or micromanage like intake. I'm very particular on our marketing, kind of our message, our voice. I manage pretty closely. I'm getting better about that. But the rest of the stuff, I pretty well am pretty trusting. I've hired good people that can do the job sometimes better than me. I think Ben talks about this a lot, of my zone of excellence. I'm constantly trying to get out of this quadrant of like things I don't like and I don't want to do. And I've pretty well done that. So now I handle most of our intake. I'm at least accessible for almost everything. And then I litigate our big, heavy stuff with the assistance of our senior paralegal and another attorney. And then I manage a lot of our pre-lit cases, but my case managers do most of the day-to-day, where my pre-lit responsibilities are settling cases where there's a lot of money in dispute, and then dealing with clients when they're having a hard time or getting settlement authority from them, and then monitoring the cases.
Well, it's clear that you're very thoughtful, and you're a learner, and you go out there to and you probably are an experimenter as well. Are there any sorts of routines that you employ, sort of that you use to be successful, whatever successful means to you?
Yeah, look, so a couple things. I like to think in threes. So I try to have 3 things every week, 3 things every month, 3 things every quarter, 3 things every year that are my kind of rocks, So that's one thing I've been working on. I hired an executive assistant that's really good for accountability, where she and I meet almost every day for short conversations to go through stuff. I've had to become kind of a meeting guy. Don't really like that, but I've had to set scheduled meetings. So that's really how I kind of keep the ball moving and hold myself accountable, is by making myself sit down with whoever the project manager is, whoever the decision makers are, whoever I'm getting input from, and let's solve this problem.
So the other thing, my experience with myself and with other law firm owners and leaders, you got to have something that drives you. You went out on your own, you're trying to grow this thing, you're growing this thing. What is it for you? What drives you?
It's passion, to be honest with you. And I was a little worried when I had my little boy that I would lose some of that he would be a distraction. And I mean, I wasn't worried, actually. I was going to be welcoming of if my little boy distracted me from work, because money's good. Money could be good with half as much effort, to be candid with you. But I love what I do. I love waking up every day going to work. I like the people I work with. I love my clients. If I don't like my clients, I fire them or send them to somebody else, And so our firm mission is to help as many good people as possible. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if I'm obsessed. Sometimes I wonder if that'll last forever. And I have to be cognizant of that, because I put it in front of my wife. I don't put it in front of my little boy yet, but I will one day. And for no good reason other than because I love it. So I know it's corny, but I love what I do.
Well, that's good, man, because you're going to be doing it for a while. So that's good.
Yeah.
So
until I get my horse business kicked off,
That's true. Well, you love horses too. So, then you're going to have to decide. So another post I saw you make, you said shamelessness is a superpower of yours. I want to dig into that a little bit. So tell me about that.
Well, so I think it starts, I'm very hard to embarrass. And I'll tell you the only time that I can think of that I was ever embarrassed, I was in 3rd grade, and typical boy, I'm playing outside, getting grass stains on my jeans every day. My poor mom had to wash my jeans every single day. And I think I only had one pair of jeans, because every morning I'd pull them out of the dryer, stick them on, put them on, get on the school bus, go to school. And so one day in 3rd grade, we're standing in line in the gym where all the bus riders meet, and there's these 2 cute girls over in the line next to me, and they're giggling, looking at me, and I'm like, okay, this is That's good. Girls are looking at you smiling and stuff. But then they start pointing, and that's bad. If girls point and laugh at you, that is not a good thing. And I looked down, and I had a pair of tighty-whities hanging out the bottom of my jeans. And like what I'd done is like taken all my clothes off, watered them up, and they just got hung up in the legs, and I was mortified. And to be honest with you, that's about the only time I can remember really being embarrassed. Like in law school, so I've got fake front teeth, knocked them out when I was a little boy. And I had no shame like in college where I had a retainer I could pop in and out, and I'd pop those things out. Every time, like if somebody was getting aggressive, I'd pop my teeth out. Be like, do we need to go outside? Like, knocked them out in law school. I had like veneers that I busted out playing basketball. It took 2 weeks to make new ones. And so I walked around law school my third year, 2 weeks, no buck teeth. And it didn't bother me a bit. And so, which probably makes me there's probably a diagnosis for this. Like I'm probably a psychopath. But I found that so many lawyers are so worried about embarrassing themselves, or, they just have a lot of shame. They don't want to put themselves out there, that when you put yourself out there, you stand out. And people like lawyers, anybody that stands for something, even if it's silly stuff. And so if I had shame, if I was easy to embarrass, I never would have posted on Facebook, done the things that I did to grow my law practice. And so, yeah, I think being shameless is a bit of a superpower.
Well, I'll tell you, from a marketing standpoint, absolutely. A lot of lawyers are just nervous, man. They're just risk averse. They don't want to do anything. So that's you need it. So maybe, I'm not on TikTok, but what kind of stuff are you posting over there?
Not shameful stuff. Well, I mean, some lawyers might think not shameful. I like newsjacking, to be candid with you. Like if I hear a good case, I'll like post something. Be like, hey, well, the last one, this case just came in like 2 weeks ago. Made a TikTok. There were 2 police officers arrested for DUI in the same weekend in my city. And I made a TikTok. One of them was in an accident and hurt somebody. And so I made a TikTok about that basically. And here's what the victim of that crime, of that accident, here's what kind of case they have. And the girl scheduled a consultation, reached out to me and told me that 8 people had sent her that TikTok, 8 of her friends that knew she'd been in the wreck with the drunk police officer. And so that's a good one. That's an easy one. And then just anything. I think anytime that you can blend in attention with what we do and bring attention to things that matter. I love to take if it's a police chase case and I know there's going to be limited coverage, bad injury, stuff like that, it's a great chance to talk about uninsured motorist coverage. Most people that run from the cops don't have insurance. If there's a accident involving a municipal employee, I like to teach people about the caps on municipal damages in Alabama and just kind of bring awareness to it. One, because I think you build authority that way, helps your brand. But 2, if those people pull out their deck page and increase their uninsured motorist coverage, like that's a positive thing. Like that's something that just impacts the whole community, everybody that sees it. And then lastly, the politics side of it. Tort reform's right around the corner for everybody. We beat it 2 years ago in Alabama, but next time around we'll have an even bigger fight. And so I want to educate the public so that when it comes back around, hopefully I've got a bunch of people that I can ghostwrite letters for to their state rep and state senator and say, hey, here's my understanding of what you're trying to pass. It's bad. It's bad for me. Vote against it.
So I'm curious about your process. You mentioned on TikTok, at least, you do some sort of news jacking. So I imagine that's just sort of like you get inspired and you're like, all right, I'm jumping on it.
Yeah.
But other than sort of the spur of the moment stuff, do you have a process?
No, I'll be honest with you. I see so much bad social media content from lawyers where they have probably a good process. They set aside a day to shoot some content and it's super boring. It's way too well done. And they get like 200 views. Their grandma watches it and their neighbors watch it. And the best stuff I've seen is just off the cuff. Like if I can't get it in 2 takes, I'm done, And so I keep a little notepad and write some things down. And when the lighting's good and it's quiet in the office, I just set my phone down and start yapping and try to get something that's doable, that's people will watch.
Well, it's working. You got that one case.
I got one case, yeah. There's a few. I do workers' comp. People are real interested in workers' comp. It's something that affects, you'd be surprised how many people have work comp questions. So, anything that's interesting, dog bite cases, there's just so many people talking about car accidents, what to do in a car accident. So what I found that on TikTok is that things that nobody else is covering get good attention. Dog bite cases, people like hearing about that kind of stuff. Anything newsworthy, workplace accidents, And it's just a way to build authority. And I think there's probably going to be some search engine effects to it too. I think your social media presence is going to be more of a factor with AI and Google search results as it advances.
Well, certainly, brand, I think that term may be overused and misused a lot, but, for lawyers, I think particularly individual lawyers, brand is really something that you can, affect. And you do that through, lots of different channels. Some people do it through advertising, but, social media, how you show up in community, all those sorts of things. And that is something that, is valuable, and that the big dogs can't compete with that, really. And especially if you're different. And it's clear you know yourself, you've sort of got sort of your thing figured out, and it resonates and you're doing well with it. So that's, good to know. And maybe other people out there should maybe follow that kind of approach. So shifting again. So, you're running your firm, you've been doing it 4 years. So you're an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur now. So, as you look back, or as you're sitting here today, what do you like about it? What's the best part of it?
I think getting to bet on yourself. Initially before, like when I first started my firm, I felt to fire immediately because I was going to work working for myself. And I'd been grinding for 4.5 years, working really, really hard to build assets that benefited people other than myself. And once I started my firm, everything I do furthers my own career. It benefits me and my family and the team, the people that I support. So that's definitely my favorite part. I also like the ability to find my zone of excellence. And if I don't want to do something, if I'm not good at it, if I don't like it, I can find somebody else to do it.
So as you look back and consider the last few years of your own practice, if I'm another lawyer out there who's thinking about opening shop, are there any lessons that you think you've learned that might resonate with other lawyers out there that are thinking about starting a firm?
I think cases are king. I think if you have cases, you can start your own firm and you can do your own thing. If you don't have cases, it's going to be really hard. I think building sustainable assets that benefits you for the rest of your career, which is going to be a referral network first and foremost, is the most important thing that you can be doing the first 10 years of your practice, other than developing skills as an attorney. But most people, if you're competent to run your own firm, you're going to be a competent attorney. You're going to be competent to handle cases. And then I think look for blue oceans is the best advice I can give for somebody. Maybe that's a different practice area to complement your personal injury practice. Maybe it's, there's just a lot of things. My blue oceans are, we market a lot for Hispanic cases. Everybody that works for me speaks Spanish. Going to the rural community where there aren't a bunch of lawyers. Like, if you go to the nice high school here in Huntsville, there's 10 kids in that school that have parents who are lawyers or who are personal injury lawyers. There's 50 children of lawyers in the whole school. You go to the school I went to, like nobody there even knows a lawyer. So that's a blue ocean. I think that's good.
So I want to go back to that. So, you mentioned something earlier about, people are intimidated sometimes by lawyers. And I think, I forget that. Most of my clients are lawyers, so they're not intimidated by me. But, for your clientele, I wonder if your background, not being around lawyers, growing up on a farm, all those sorts of things, you're able to put yourself in their position. And I'm curious, sort of the way you grew up, were you intimidated? Not necessarily you, but the people you know and the people you're with, would they have been intimidated by lawyers? And does that affect your approach?
Yeah, I think so. When I spent the most time thinking about this was at my old firm. We were suits and ties 5 days a week, okay? From the time you walk in to the time you leave. And nice vehicles, things like the perception of success, looking like a lawyer's supposed to look like, big, nice, swanky office. And when I started my firm, I have a rinky-dink office, not nearly as nice, driving beat-up trucks, because that's just I like beat-up trucks. And I just started wearing jeans and polos and button-ups for comfort, and I would still for a little while throw on a suit for every new client, keep a suit hanging behind the door. And one day I was in a hurry and I didn't do it, and I sat down and I honestly felt at ease. I felt like every new client consultation I'd ever done in my life in my full suit had been like a costume, wearing a mask. And when I sit down with folks and I'm in a light blazer, button up, jeans, boots, like I'm in my uniform, not in a costume. man, like this is who I am. And so I think it's important, it's not just making the clients feel at ease with walking in and not being intimidated by three lawyers in suits. I think it's also, again, it goes back to authenticity of like, it's who I am. It's what I'm comfortable in. And I'll tell you this too, I haven't had this happen. Maybe it happened once or twice and I just didn't realize it. I don't think I miss out on cases because I'm wearing blue jeans. And if I do, I'd rather miss out on a case on the front end and avoid all the time and energy of dealing with somebody that's not going to like me. Like I'm not their type of lawyer if they come into my office and me wearing jeans and boots is a deal breaker. Like there's going to be something that happens later that sours that relationship. I'm going to disappoint them. I'm not going to meet their expectations. And so it's good to know that the first 10 minutes in the meet me instead of 10 months down the road.
I would think it probably helps prevent losing cases in the middle of the case too. Clients are less likely to say, hey, I'm out of here because I don't like you or whatever.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time, like I'm still a bit old fashioned in some ways. And one of the ways that I'm old fashioned is unless I want rapport with somebody before I go all in on their case. All right. Sometimes it's like that. They're a referral from a family friend or whatever it is. And they know me, they like me, they trust me. Other times I just figure out real quickly, they're my kind of people. There's just something that I say or they say that sends us a signal of like, we're from the same tribe, like we're going to get along. And then other times I don't get that rapport over the phone and I want them to come in relatively quickly after they hire us to start to build that rapport. And I like to spend an hour, roughly 30 to 60 minutes with people, building trust with them, because I found that an hour on the front end probably saves me, it's probably a 5X return over the life of that case. And then I can hand them off to my case manager. I can introduce them to the case manager and say, hey, this is Julio, this is Valentina. They're your main point of contact from 8 to 5. Like they're super responsive. They're going to get back to you in probably 10 minutes unless they're at lunch. And I'm glad to answer your questions, but just so you know, like I hope you call before 8 a.m. or after 6 p.m. because my day is pretty packed. And people respect that and they appreciate it. And that expectation is set on the front end. And again, and sometimes if people are, I feel like they may have unreasonable expectations, I just ask them, if we don't talk again for 90 days and it's your case manager who deals with you, exclusively, is that going to be a problem? Like, do you expect me to call you every week or every month personally? And I've had clients tell me candidly, yes, I expect an update every week from the lawyer. Well, you're not going to get that here. So I think it'd be best if you just went somewhere else,
That's a great piece of advice. And I bet you when you tell them that, they want you even more.
Sometimes.
No, it's okay. I'll let you 90 days. That's fine.
Sometimes. And then I'm like, well, then let me think about it, or whatever it might be. Obviously there's outliers, right? I keep a handful of catastrophic injury cases with a lot of coverage, right? High 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure cases. Those are different. Those are, here's my cell phone number, like if whatever you need, like this is how you get in touch with me. Here's everybody else, but start with me. And that's just, but I try to have my team, we want to have a white glove approach to everything that we do. And so you can't have I can't manage 350 cases and give the level of customer service that I would like to have. And so we have 15 people that's their job for the most part. We are really in customer service. There's really only like 5 of us that are real technicians, moving cases, paralegals, lawyers, that kind of stuff.
That's really a great approach. So shifting gears. So you may have already hinted around at this, but if you weren't practicing law, what do you think you'd be doing?
So this might be in some alternative lives, a missionary in probably Guatemala, might be running my dad's lawnmower shop or have a second location for his lawnmower shop, might have farmed. Those are the things that like my path could have diverted at any moment, and that's where I would have ended up. I think that if I could do things differently, I think being a physical therapist or a chiropractor would be pretty cool. I think I would enjoy that. Fitness is important to me, helping people with that kind of stuff. But being a farmer is still very much on my radar. Like if my kids are real serious about farming, I would not be surprised if I'm farming like 40 hours a week and practicing law 20 or 30 hours a week, 20 years from now.
That sounds pretty cool. Yeah. Well, I think we'll leave it with that, Hunter. So for anybody out there who, maybe they got a case in the Huntsville area or they want to reach out just to ask you about your practice or your approach, what's the best way to find you?
LinkedIn and Facebook, I check multiple times a day. I'm glad to have a Zoom call with anybody that's thinking about starting their own firm, has started their own firm, whatever it is running a firm. I love this stuff. I love to talk shop. I love being involved in masterminds, one-on-one calls, all that kind of stuff. That's an easy way to get in touch with me, though, is Facebook.
Sweet. Well, Hunter, man, I appreciate you coming on and look forward to seeing you in person here in about, 3 weeks or so. So yeah. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Founding Partner Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date on the latest episodes. You can also connect with Jonathan on LinkedIn and check out the show notes with links to resources mentioned throughout our discussion by visiting www.lawfirmgc.com. We'll see you next time for more origin stories and insights from successful law firm founders.